Hi, my name is Amanda Wilkinson. I am a Pembroke visiting student alumni from the 2010-2011 school year, and I am here today to show you how to make a face mask. With the coronavirus pandemic that's currently sweeping the world, PPE is in really high demand, and a lot of hospitals are not able to get access to the PPE they need, not only for their patients, but also for their workers. And so I am here in my home studio of my costume company, The Bodice Babe, where I make historical costumes for clients all over the world. And I have transformed my costume studio into a mask making studio. And I am here to provide you with a tutorial for the Deaconess pattern, which was developed by the Deaconess Hospital in Indiana. And this is a very easy pattern to make. Just a few simple steps, and it is one of the mask patterns that has been recommended by hospitals and is often requested by hospitals. There are quite a few mask patterns kind of floating around on the internet. Simple ones you can make with a bandana and some hair elastics and some things like that. But if you are wanting to make masks to donate to be used in lieu of PPE in hospitals, this is definitely a pattern that a lot of the hospitals I've been donating to have been requesting. So I'm going to walk you through it step by step. I just want to first go over the things that you'll need to make your face mask. This is the pattern that's recommended for the Deaconess pattern. As you can see, it's just a 6" by 9" rectangle. So I just made this out of like a grocery bag, and I'm using this as my template. I've already cut the fabric out, and as you can see, you can use pretty much any pattern, anything like that. But the most important thing is that you want to use 100% cotton, and you want to go ahead and pre-wash it so that any shrinkage, as people continue to wash it and reuse it, you don't have a lot of shrinkage. We've got a couple different patterns here. I'm going to work with this one today. And there's a couple of other things you need before you can get started. So the first step that I would recommend is to use a disinfectant wipe like this. I know these are in very short supply right now, but if you're lucky enough I bought these way before this started, and I've been nursing them as long as I can. But you can use any type of a surface disinfectant to wipe down all of your surfaces. Even if you haven't been sick, I think it's definitely still a good idea because, like I said, if you are hoping to donate these to a healthcare organization, I think that cleanliness is key. So you're gonna need a couple of things. You'll need 2 of the 6" by 9" rectangles that you can cut out of your cotton, one for the outside and one for the inside of your mask. It's really important to use 2 different color fabric because it makes it a lot easier for the person using the mask to tell which side has been in contact with their face. And so it just helps them to make sure that they're not exposing themselves or others to the germs that have been in contact with their nose and mouth. You'll also need 2 7" pieces of elastic. Elastic is another thing that is kind of difficult to find now. I've been trying to use up the store that I had before all of this craziness started, but I was able to buy this elastic online. It has little anchors on it. This elastic actually was intended to be used to make hair ties. And so I went ahead and just bought up a whole bunch of this, but it's nice and soft and comfortable. The best elastic they're recommending would be a 1/4 inch. So that would be elastic that is about this width, but this has actually been working fine. And then I also have here some really thin elastic that I've been trying to use up as well. This one is a little bit more difficult to work with, but I used it on this mask, and I think as long as you stitch securely over the spots where the elastic attaches, I think that would also work just as well. So you're also just gonna need some pins, and you're gonna need a pair of scissors to trim your threads. And you're also gonna need an iron for when we turn the mask inside out. So once you have all those things, you should be ready to get started. All right, so we're just gonna get started by putting the exterior fabric of your mask with the right side facing up. And then you're gonna put right sides to right sides. And so this one is the same on both, so it really doesn't matter. So we're just gonna place the lining on top of the outside fabric. And the first thing we're gonna do is pin in our elastic. So I'm gonna put the anchors face down so that they're visible. But if with a normal piece, it wouldn't matter which way you did it. And we're gonna go about a 1/2 inch down from the top of our mask corner in the right corner, and we're gonna sandwich our piece of elastic right in between the internal and external fabric. And so you're just gonna lay that on top and put a pin in right over where your elastic is. And we're gonna now do the exact same thing on the bottom. So you're gonna open this up, curve your elastic down to make your ear loop, go about 1/2 inch, and then pin the elastic in between your 2 layers of fabric. This will make it really quick when you go to sew around the perimeter of the mask. All right, now we're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side of our mask. So take our elastic, we're gonna pin it in about 1/2 inch down, like this. You are certainly welcome to measure this a little more precisely, but after making just about over 100 of these, I have gotten pretty good at eyeballing these dimensions. So yes. All right, we're gonna pin our last corner in here and make sure everything's lined up nicely. Okay, so we have our 4 corners now. So now we just need to pin around 3 of the 4 sides of this mask. So you're just gonna go down along the edges, pinning the 2 layers together, which will make it a breeze when you go to actually sew around the perimeter of your mask. Okay, so as you can see now, we've pinned around 3 of the 4 sides. We're gonna leave the bottom side open down here because we will need to turn this inside out once we've stitched around the perimeter. And now it's time to do that. All right, so now we're just gonna do a basic stitch around the perimeter of the mask. I have my machine set on 1.8 stitch length, and I am going to stitch all the way around about 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so just keep going here. Now I'm gonna go over the place where my first piece of elastic is pinned, and I'm actually gonna back stitch back over that area just to make sure that that elastic is really securely in my pattern. Same thing with my second piece of elastic here. Once I get past it one time, I'm gonna back stitch just to make sure. And then when you get to your corner, you're just gonna go ahead and turn. Keep going around the edge of your mask. To the other corner, we'll go a little further. Okay. Now we're stitching over our third piece of elastic. Piece here in the corner. All right, so there we go. As you can see here, we stitched around the 3 sides of our mask, and now it's time to turn this inside out. Okay, so now we are going to turn our mask inside out. So we're just going to take it by the open edge and just flip our corners out. For this particular step, I like to use something that has, that's still pointy but has a blunt edge like a knitting needle to kind of push into my corners to turn them out so that they're nice and square. It also helps to kind of push the elastic out of the corners. So I'm going to do that on both edges here. And then I'm just going to use my knitting needle to kind of make a nice straight edge. And you're going to take your iron and you're just going to press this seam to make it nice and flat where your elastic is. There's one side. Take my knitting needle and push my corner out a little bit here. I'm using just a little bit of steam. Okay, and then we're just gonna do the same thing on the top edge here to make our mask nice and flat and easy to work with. Okay. So there we go. So now we have a nice flat rectangle. Our elastic is on the outside, which is what we want. And now we are going to pin this bottom edge shut. Okay, so now we just need to finish this bottom edge here. And we're gonna do that by just folding our bottom corners in about even with the elastic there. And then sandwiching our top and bottom layers together. And this part, you may have to just work with it a little bit to get your edges to line up perfectly, but it is well worth it. It'll make it very easy when you go to sew this bottom seam. So we are just tucking this bottom edge in a little bit, and we're taking our pins and we are just pinning them together, and we will end up sewing right along this finished edge here. So you just want to go ahead and do that all the way down. Here you. Okay. And there we go. So now we have a nice edge, and we are now gonna go just stitch this down here. All right, so we're just gonna stitch this down now. You're just gonna go as close to the edge of this as you can, just making sure that you catch both layers of fabric. So we're gonna just close this edge off down here. Okay, so there you go. The bottom edge is now finished off, and now we're gonna move on to the pleats. Okay, so we're almost done here. We just need to put 3 pleats in this mask, which is gonna help give it kind of the customized shape and make sure that it's nice and secure around your nose and mouth. So what I like to do is just start kind of in the middle of our rectangle here. And again, you can measure this more precisely if you would like to. I am just gonna do a pinch pleat here. So I'm grabbing this section in the middle, about 1/2 inch, and then folding it down. And then I'm gonna pin that on both sides, making sure it's even. So there's my first pleat. Then I'm just gonna do the same thing again on the bottom. And there's 2, and then 1 more pleat on top. Just folding it down, making sure you're pinning your pleats nice and flat, which is going to make it very easy when you then go to stitch them down. So there we go. So now we have our mask, 3 pleats on each side, and now we are just going to stitch those down. So I usually, for these side stitches, you'd like to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so basically the length of my whole presser foot right here, which makes it easy to kind of eyeball. And we're just gonna stitch down the side of the mask, making sure that we get all of the pleats tacked down nice and flat. So there's 1, and then I like to do a double stitch. This is a slight modification to the original Deaconess pattern, but just since these are going to be washed so frequently, which is one of the benefits of the fabric masks, I like to do another stitch down the side of the mask here just to really secure the elastic and make them a little extra durable. So we're just going to go right as close to the edge of our mask as possible and just do 1 additional row of stitching to tack those pleats down. So as you can see now, we have 2 rows of stitches here, and we're gonna replicate that on the other side, making sure that your elastic is pulled out of the way so that you don't accidentally stitch over it. There's 1. And our second row here. And so you can see now on both sides, we have our 2 rows of stitching, our pleats are tacked down nicely, and now we just need to trim all of our threads off. All right, so we have just trimmed our excess thread off, and congratulations, you have made your very own Deaconess fabric face mask. Let's try it on, just to make sure everything's fitting well. And it is, so that's great. So these masks are wonderful. Over here in the US, it's being recommended that civilians wear fabric face coverings out to the grocery store, out to pick up prescriptions. It's kind of generally mandated now, so it is really helpful to be able to make a mask like this for yourself. But like I said, also our hospitals, first responders, nursing homes are all in really great need for PPE. So being able to make masks like this and donate them to places in your community is a great effort right now. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll be providing the pattern and link to the original article about the Deaconess masks for your reference. And everybody stay safe and healthy out there.